Today we're going to take a look at two specific fraction line plots and some questions you might see from them. So just like with whole number line plots, you're going to want to look at all the information that you have in front of you first, just to get a picture of what's going on. So looking at my line plot, I know the title is telling me that I'm looking at something related to the length of string, and that's going to be measured in feet. I also have some background information up here that tells me Clara cuts pieces of string to make bracelets, necklaces, and rings. So now I have a little bit of background of what all of this information is. I know each of these X's now represents a cut piece of string that Clara has in order to make all of these different arts and crafts projects. So one kind of question you might see is when you're asked to find the total, or in total, what was the length of string that Clara cut? So in order to do that, I need to look at how all of these little tiny cuts add together to give me the total amount of string she had. So my advice in a question like this is to first find the mini totals. In other words, find the total of each category. I know my first category represents pieces that are 1/7 of a foot long. Since there's two pieces in that category, I can do 1/7 plus 1/7, or I can think about it like 2 times 1/7, and that will show me that those two pieces combine together to a total length of 2/7 feet. My next category only has one piece of string, so I know that that also represents 2/7 feet. My next category represents pieces of string that are 3/7 of a foot, and I have 1, 2, 3 of those pieces. So I can do 3 times 3/7, which gives me 9/7. Now you'll notice I've left my answer as an improper fraction. You can change it to a mixed number if you want, or you can leave it as an improper fraction and change it all at the end. That's what I'm going to do for this particular question. Now moving on to my next category, each X in this category represents 4/7 of a foot. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 X's. So that gives me a total of 16/7 feet of string. My next category has two pieces that are each 5/7 feet, or 10/7 total. My next category only has one piece worth 6/7 of a foot. And finally, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of string that are each 1 foot long. Now that I know my mini totals, I can combine or add all of those pieces together. So I'm going to add 2/7 plus 2/7 plus 9/7 plus 16/7 plus 10/7 plus 6/7, and finally plus 4. So if I bring that whole number over, I know I'm at least starting with 4 full feet of string, and then adding together all of these mini totals gets me a fraction 45/7. Now 45/7 is an improper fraction, and now is definitely the time to change it back to a mixed number. I know that 45/7 is the same as 6 and 3/7, so I can combine the 6 and 3/7 that's represented by my improper fraction with the 4 that I already have for a total of 10 and 3/7 feet. Now I might also be asked a question like number 2, where it says Clara made rings out of all the pieces 3/7 of a foot and shorter. How many rings could she make? Well, I know the phrase 3/7 of a foot and shorter means that I need to include the X's in the 3/7 foot category. So when it gives you a certain amount and then has that word and, it wants you to include this category as well. In this case, I'm using 3/7 and everything shorter than it, so I need the 3/7 foot category and anything smaller than that. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 X's, which means that there are 6 pieces or 6 rings that she could make. Finally, I might see a question like in number 3, where it says Clara needed 3 strings exactly 5/7 of a foot long to make a friendship bracelet. Did she have enough? Well, this is telling me that I need only the X's in the 5/7 of a foot category. That word exactly means that it can't be bigger and it can't be smaller. It has to be just 5/7 of a foot. In that category, I have 2 X's. She needed 3, so the answer to this question would be no. She only cut 2 pieces that length, so it wouldn't be enough. Let's take a look at just a couple more questions with another fraction line plot. Again, I want to take in all the information that I have. So I know that this particular line plot is about the weight of cell phones, and specifically I'm looking at pounds. And my background up here says Jerry was comparing the weights of several different cell phones to see which one he wanted to purchase. So the first question I might see is, what is the maximum weight of the cell phone? Well, I know that maximum means the most weight. It's just a fancy way of saying which phone was the heaviest. So remembering that my line plot goes from least to greatest, I'm looking for the category that has an X in it as far down the line as I can go. Now I see a category for 4/5, but there's no X's, which means there's no cell phones in that category. So that means I need to look at the 3/4 category, and the maximum weight of the cell phone was 3/4 of a pound. Looking at number 2, the question asks, how many cell phones did he compare? Well, I know that the cell phones are represented by the X's. So if I count all the X's in my chart, I end up with 9 phones. So Jerry looked at 9 different phones to compare. And the third question asks, if Jerry wanted the lightest phone, how much would it weigh? Well, just like the maximum meant the most weight, the lightest phone means the least weight. So I'm going to look all the way to the left of my line plot. My smallest category is 1/4 of a pound, and I do have an X in that category. So the lightest phone would be 1/4 of a pound. Now there's one final type of question that you might see when it comes to fraction line plots, and that is asking us to find an average. An average is when we find the total amount and then we divide it by the number of numbers. So in this case, if I wanted to find the total weight of all the cell phones, again, I would start by finding my mini totals. So 1X in the 1/4 category means 1/4 of a pound. 3 X's in the 1/3 category means 3/3 pounds. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cell phones that each weigh a 1/2 a pound, so I would do 4 times 1/2 or 4 halves. And finally, I have one more cell phone in the 3/4 category, so I have 3/4 of a pound. So now I can use my mini totals to find my full total. 1/4 plus 3/3 plus 4 halves plus 3/4 will give you my total. Now you might have recognized that 3/3 is equal to 1 and 4 halves is equal to 2. So I can replace those with their whole number equivalents. Then I can add my fractional amounts, 1/4 and 3/4, to get 4/4. So total, I have 3 and 4/4, or 4 pounds, when I add all of the weights of the cell phones together. Now my last step of finding the average is to divide by the number of numbers. In this case, question number 2 already told us that there were 9 phones. So I can take those 4 pounds and divide it by the 9 phones. And remembering my KFC rules, that means that the average weight is 4/9 pounds. So this video will help you answer your practice questions for today. You can also use the attached review sheets to take a peek at as you're working. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.